Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk to you about what magic really is. You know how they say that every culture has a dragon myth, even though there's no explanation, there were never dragons, so there's no real explanation for why every single culture has a dragon myth. There are symbols in the universe. The moon is a powerful symbol. Also, one of my favorite symbols is apples, that we all sort of experience and know and understand. And these symbols are gateways through which duality collapses. And going back to the dragon and myths and these stories we tell ourselves, there are also pointers or ways in which duality starts to collapse. And so stories and symbols are very, very powerful. Now, of course, you've probably heard the teachings not to get lost in stories and not to get lost in symbols. And ultimately, the finger pointing to the moon is a finger pointing to the moon itself. It's a pointer. But it also is responsible for governing cycles and life on Earth. And I'm just starting to understand how important nature really is and how nature itself is such a portal to magic, to the world being magic. And so I've started studying Wicca and witchcraft. I'm a little bit disappointed in what I've found so far, but it's helped me a lot. But I feel like if you really go down the roads of non-duality, really go down the road of Buddhism and understand non-duality, that you will, if you can open yourself up to the tantric accepting of love and accepting of all, that's where magic comes in. And so the magic is the love part. And somebody shared a video, it was a really short video on YouTube, and it was talking about how you look at your hand and you understand that your thought of a hand is not the actual thing. And any judgment you have about the hand is not the actual thing. And so an exercise of meditation and being truly in the present moment is to look at your hand and experience it in the present moment and meditate upon that, how it's kind of crazy how when we look at something, when we truly, truly look at something, we see all these details. And as long as we're not making stories about it, like, oh, my hands are old or wrinkly, or oh, that's the scar I got from whatever, as long as you're truly in the present moment, it's just looking at something can be quite a meditation. And the next step after you're focusing on your hand is to diffuse your attention into the space. And so suddenly you become aware, you're still looking at your hand, you're still focusing on the hand, but you're also like feeling the energy of the space and just aware of that general. And so you're sort of diffusing or expanding your attention. And then the third element is to bring in like a sense of love for the hand in the directions. And that's the third part that gets left out of Buddhism and what love really is. And love equals magic. Magic equals love. And that is how magic is how love manifests. And we are how love manifests. And everything we see in nature is how love manifests. And it truly is magic. And so understanding that and tapping into that and knowing that there are truly no evil powers. There are powers that appear evil to you. And they are an aspect of yourself. They are a shadow side of yourself. And so I feel like a lot of people who are drawn to the occult and witchcraft misunderstand this. They don't fully understand or experience everything as them. And so that's where like the evil things and the doing harm and everything, and that's truly not part of the true paths, and I have a lot to learn about them. But it's really interesting how every magical story, if you go back and you look at it and you understand it, how many symbols and pointers there are in it, and how, like, as a child reading Harry Potter and my just wonder and just being so like drawn into that book, and just the truly losing yourself in the fantasy of it. And now I realize that anything that really draws you in like that, anything that you lose yourself in, is something that you are just so ready for in that moment, something that has something to teach you. And I remember the second time I read through the Harry Potter books, I think I was 19. And I never driven in a city before. And just the theme of courage and love and courage in those books was just so incredible to me. And it helped me learn to drive in the city. And as we purify ourselves, we realize that love is this incredible kind of courage. And it's this incredible kind of courage to do what needs to be done in the moment, and to truly not be split within oneself. When our ego is what splits our own power. And so we feel drawn to one area and drawn to another, and we do one thing and we feel like we should be doing another. The ego is constantly splitting our attention, or we dislike someone and it's constantly arguing for our own limitation. And so discovering your magic and learning to love is finding your power, working through fear. All of these things end up in the same place. And one thing I'm starting to understand more of is that you need to, purification is a really important thing. So if we have addictions and vices, all of those things cover up our own connection with who we truly are, and they like make us shrink back into our false selves. And so doing shadow work, doing psychotherapy, journaling, and doing all kinds of things to get past those blocks in your life. Any moral behavior becomes really important. And of course, I don't mean to preach morality. I mean to see through, to truly understand why one would feel like they could not do something to harm another person intentionally, because they are so connected with everything. They see everything. They truly love their neighbor as themselves. They love each and every one as themselves. They love the earth as themselves. And the best gateway to magic for me has been nature, because I have this inherent love of nature. And I just got back from the woods and just like combed the sticks out of my hair and tried to look presentable and stuff. But it just recently rained and it's the start of fall, so there's these mushrooms popping up everywhere, and I just found the most gorgeous mushrooms, purple ones and red ones. And I went by a stream in this area I'd never been, and I saw this log that had fallen across a stream. And it was just like absolutely magic. And I can't wait to go back to that place. But anyway, I'm going on a rant here. Not a rant, a bunny trail. But anyway, so mushrooms, they just arise out of the earth. Like they pop up overnight. And they're just some of them are deadly. Some of them will take you on a psychedelic trip. Some of them are really good to eat. Some of them will give you a horrendous stomachache. And I found the chanterelle mushrooms, and I made my shirt into an apron, and I picked a whole bunch of them and took them home, and that was my lunch, mixed with some rice. But the mushrooms are just amazing. They'll just pop up and disappear. And there's there's certain elements in nature that just exist as pointers to us. And so there was another night, a couple nights ago, that I just like, I looked out, I was exhausted, I was going to bed every night. I look out at the sky and like see what's going on with the sky. And so I watched the constellations. I've never really been in tune with this before. So I watched the constellations kind of move with the seasons, and the planet Venus was in a really interesting position for a while, and that was all I could see earlier in the summer, because it's the evening star. It's the one that comes out first. And so a couple nights ago, I looked out and the stars were just gorgeous, and I was just looking. I'm like, is that the Milky Way? That's going to be part of the Milky Way. It's not just like a cloud lit up or something like that. And so I was just like, got this impulse. It's just like, go outside right now and really look at the stars. And so I did, and like I meditated on how the Milky Way is just lit up, but you just can't even fathom. You cannot. And nature is just like everywhere. Everything you look at is amazing, and you start seeing the symbolism and magical plants. And I was drawn into the story of the clairvoyant doctor. That's what opened my mind to cities and different powers and the magical aspect of everything, and kind of drew me out of a kind of death and moralization of the present moment. And the thing that drew me in was seeing poison nightshade growing on his grave, and a plant that magical, a plant that has the power to kill. Or if you look up the history of it, witches used a sort of flying ointment, and they used poison nightshade or belladonna, and they would put it on their skin for psychedelic effects. And so that's incredibly dangerous. And someone tried to figure out what the heck was in it, and he was studying it, and he ended up dying. It's all allegory. It's all stories. And like I say, I've never had to use a psychedelic, but from my experiences in life, I see the magic in it. And I don't have to alter my consciousness to see through it beyond entering that space like I just described with the hand. And so I understand now that the crows planted the poison nightshade, and I left a ring for them. I've left a few other things for them, and it's just the most magical connection you can have. And the chanterelles were found on the road that led to the clairvoyant doctor's house, and I had wanted so much to learn how to forage for mushrooms, but I didn't have the guts enough to do it. And those are an easy one to identify. So I saw them, and I knew what they were, and I did the work, and I ate them, and I've gone back, and they keep coming back. I've had tons of them. And it's like somebody loves you. It's like somebody is looking out for you, and somebody really loves you. And it's just, you see that love, and that love equals magic. And I just want this connection for everyone. And it's spirituality and working past the ego. It's going down the rabbit hole. And my very first introduction to non-duality, I must have been 19 years old, and my dad had the movie What the Bleep, and he got sick, and he was going through kind of a midlife crisis, and he ended up losing his job. He ended up being too sick to go. So he started getting into the movie, and he really resonated with it. But it says in the movie, it says, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And I just keep going back to that and thinking of it, like Alice in Wonderland, and I understand the connection, the magic of plants, psychedelics, and not even having to use them, but still just being, I've always had this love for nature. I understand it now. It's magic. Life is pure magic. And I had made a video about synchronicity. It's a really important subject, but I didn't like how it came out. So I'll try to make that again. But just really quickly, pay attention to things. There are no mistakes. Pay attention to things that really draw you in. Pay attention to things that sort of take your attention. You might see something odd on the road. You're becoming very attuned, very attentive to things, and you're understanding that life isn't just some random mistake. There is intelligent design behind it. And you can tap into that intelligence. You can download that intelligence, but the only thing that stands in our way is our sense of false selves and our ego that's constantly arguing for our own limitation. I hope this was helpful for you today. Thank you for watching. Please leave me a comment. I love to hear from you guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. And that's all for now.